guys, Angela here. Angela and her random static. Like, I swear to God, I didn't have this static 5 minutes ago. It just randomly, I don't know if it's my sweater or what, but like, or the blanket that's on my bed, but I randomly have static. Like this is my leave out. It's like sticking up. Anyway, bear with me. Welcome to another Sunday chat. It is Sunday night. It's 9 o'clock. It's another late night chat. But I just got in from a little me day. I did my regular routine. Oh, by the way, new hair. Who this? I got a new install on Wednesday night after work. Just a straight like middle part bust out. Let me quit touching it because the static is getting worse every time I put my hands in it. What the hell? Anyway, I got a new install on Wednesday. Just a bust down middle part, straight. No, well, I got a little bit of layers in the front, but not a lot of layers in it. I just want it. Anyway, so I had a little bit of a self-care day today. I went to my workout class this morning, and then I came home and I just was bed riding. And around like 3 o'clock, I was like, let me get up. Let's just go for a walk. Let's just get out of the house, and then we'll see where the day takes us. I knew I wanted to try this bar that I had been hearing about. It's called Gus's Sip and Dip. So they have a bunch of like dips and stuff. You can get sandwiches, you can get like things to eat from there. But the catch to the bar is that it's new. The catch to the bar is that all of the drinks are $12. That's what I'm talking about. So I had 2 dirty martinis. They were $12 extra dirty, and they were good and they were strong. I literally had to ask for more olive juice because I'm like, girl, y'all gave me alcohol. Where is the olive juice? So I knew I wanted to try that. So I walked up on that, went to there, and then I was like, let me just pop into Macy's, girl, please, Nordstrom, because I ordered a shirt for the Cowboy Carter tour to go with. I have some track pants from Golden Goose, and I ordered a shirt that has 2 like citrus on the like the nipples of the t-shirt. I thought that would be cute because I thought the citrus was, I thought it was lemonade. So I was like, oh, lemons. I had a couple drinks, don't mind me. I'm like, oh, lemons, that'll be cute. An ode to lemonade. You know, I got this, you know, blue pants with the red and white stripes. Ode to Cowboy Carter. Like, it'll be cute. Like, it'll come together. Girl, I got that shirt. Those were not lemons. It was oranges. They look like lemons. Like, even when you watch next week's vlog, you're going to see me debating back and forth on whether they were actually lemons, because it's not orange. The color looked yellow to me, but then after I read the tag, so basically I read the tag on the shirt and it said orange, and I was like, maybe this does look orange. Anyway, I was like, okay, so this isn't going to work for Renaissance. Love the shirt, going to keep the shirt, but it doesn't work for Renaissance, for Cowboy Carter, for me. So I was like, I'll go in Nordstrom really quickly and see if they have anything. And then I found this Comme des Garçons top that you'll see in next week's vlog. Perfect for what I was looking for. And so I bought that, and then after that I had to go get dinner because I don't have no food in this refrigerator. I'm going at the top of the morning to get food. And so yeah, I stopped at Lord Fish Bar, got some dinner, and now I'm home. What are we talking about today? I want to do a little bit of a life update. I should have said that at the top of the video, but this video is going to be a little bit of a life update. I didn't know when I was going to film this video. I know I wanted to film it within the like next few weeks or so, but like as I was out today, I was like, you might as well just go ahead and just film the video and, you know, let the thing be what it's gonna be. So you all know that I have been planning to leave Chicago after my lease is up at the end of August. So leave Chicago at the top of October after my lease was up. And you know, I said this in the last video that I made. I have a whole Sunday chat about why I'm moving to DC, right? That's literally the title of on the thumbnail. And I just want to preface this again to say, my plan to leave Chicago has absolutely nothing to do with the city itself. I love Chicago. I love my life in Chicago. I have great friend groups. I have a couple great friend groups in Chicago. I, you know, have a great job. I have great work-life balance. I don't have, you know, any reservations or Sunday scaries or anything about going to work. I make decent. I could be making more money, but we know that, you know, we were making a personal sacrifice to try to get these loans forgiven, and I don't know what that's triggering. Anyway, but I have a great job, you know, I work on a great team. I don't have any complaints, great work-life balance. I make enough money to, you know, pay for everything that I need, plus a lot of what I want. So, you know, life in Chicago is actually great. I don't have anything, I love the city. And I always planned on coming back to the city. Like if I ever decide, okay, I'm going to buy a place, or when I decide that I am eventually going to buy a place, because it's going to happen, Chicago is a place that I actually wanted to like come back to for the last, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years of my life before retirement, and sort of like settle in. So I love Chicago. It's nothing against Chicago. It's just that I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary here in August. And I just thought, you know, the time is now for a change, to try something new. There are places in this country that in this country that you've always wanted to live. So why not just do it? You have the means, you have the ability, you have the capacity, you have the time. Let's just do it. And so that was the idea for like leaving Chicago and moving to a new city, not because I was running away from anything, or you know, Chicago wasn't serving me. Like, I have a great life here. So the reason that I settled in on DC first is because one, it's a place that I always wanted to live. Probably not as much as New York, which is where I wanted to go after DC, but it has always been a place that has been on my radar. I refer to it as a dream deferred, because I did originally plan to go to graduate school in DC at Howard for journalism, and then, you know, that didn't work out. And then I had a long-term relationship where my partner at the time was from the DMV area, and, you know, our plan was to move to the DMV after we got done with grad school, and then that didn't work out. That relationship ended. And then I ended up staying in Nashville, and my plan was to move to New York post Nashville, and then that didn't happen. I was actually planning to go to graduate school in New York before I started graduate school in Nashville, and that didn't happen. So DC and New York were always like dream deferred. Like, you know, they didn't happen for one reason or other. And so both of those places have always been in the back of my mind as places that I want to spend a significant amount of time in. Like I said, New York more than DC. So when I was thinking about this move, I originally was like, okay, I'll do DC first for just like a couple years, just because it felt easier, if I'm being quite honest, right? It felt easier. It felt like less of a leap, less of a change, you know, the cost of living, and even just, you know, the dynamic of the city. It's not the same. It's not the same, but it's more similar. DC and Chicago are more similar than DC and New York, and DC and Chicago and New York, right? And so also I was like, it'll probably be easier for me to find work that falls in line with the public service loan forgiveness program, and for me to maintain my status and finally get my loans paid off. And the plan was to stay in DC, get those loans paid off, and then move to New York and work the jobs in the settings that I want to work. That was the plan. So for me, DC just made more sense. DC just made more sense first, and then New York. So why am I saying this? There's two things. There's 2 points that I want to get to. One, the job market is tough, right? But it's not so tough that I haven't been having I haven't been having no success, right? So I've probably been applying for jobs since the top of the year. I would say I applied for a few more jobs within the last month. So I would say since January, I've probably applied for 10 jobs. And so here's the thing also, there are a bunch of jobs out there. I am at a point in my life and in my career that like just a job is not going to be good enough for me, and just a good salary is not going to be good enough for me, right? I am checking for like what my roles and responsibilities are going to be, what I can like expect my work-life balance to be. I'm looking at Glassdoor. I'm looking at all of these other things to see like what people are saying about the culture, the environment, and stuff like that. That is important to me. I don't give a damn how much a job is paying. I don't care what it is. I have to make sure that I am, it's a job that I would actually want to do in a company or a field, for an organization within a field that I would actually want to do. So I don't want a job that bad that I would just take any job or apply for any job. So I've been very selective about jobs that I have been applying for. So since January, I've probably only applied for 10 jobs. I've interviewed for 3 of them. I've gotten a rejection from 2. I've gotten to like the third round, like the final round for 2 of them. One of them, I actually ended the interview process because after the second interview, they offered me a 3rd round interview, but after the second interview and we talked about salary and they were talking about not budging, I was like, no, it's not happening, right? So I was like, we don't even have to go on with the 3rd round. So I've had 3 interviews. I've applied for 10 jobs. I did get 2 of the jobs that I interviewed for. I turned down 1 of the jobs. And then 4 of the 7 jobs that I originally applied for, I didn't even get an interview for. Which I think was still a good 3 out of 7, you know, not half, but to me, not bad, right? Because you got people out there that's like not interviewing. And then I recently applied for an additional 3 jobs. 2 of them I've gotten denial, like, you know, we're going with other candidates, which is fine. And then there's 1 more that's out there. And so the job market is tough, but it's not so tough that I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I am confident enough that my skills and my resume is good because I've been getting hits and I've had interviews where I've seen people say, I've applied for these many jobs and I haven't had an interview, I haven't gotten a call back. So that isn't like an issue for me, but the job market is tough, right? Because there aren't a lot of jobs out there that I personally would want to work. There are a lot of jobs out there. There just aren't a lot of jobs out there for Angela. And so already coming from a place where I'm being really selective about the work that, or the jobs that I'm applying for, and then it being a tough market on top of that, I mean, you know, I haven't had any luck. And then on the other side of that is just like this huge concern about the economy and, you know, companies cutting jobs and downsizing and things like that. Even roles that they are hiring for, they are then downsizing in a year, sometimes before a year. And so that's also a concern where I've been seeing a lot of talk on different like job boards and things like that, where people are getting hired, taking these new roles, and 6 months in, a year in, they're being laid off and stuff like that. So stuff like that is in the back of my mind. And I think I said at the beginning of this journey, like, I am just ready to, like, I am naturally a very risk averse person. And so I don't take a lot of a risk, especially when it comes to stuff like this. But I am trusting God, and I wanted to take risk, and I want to jump out the window and just go where he leads me. But I also am not jumping out of the window without a parachute. And so I'm saying all that to say I am getting very close to like deploying my parachute. And my parachute is being, okay, maybe I need to push this idea of leaving Chicago, leaving this very secure job that I don't have no worries, no concerns, no anything about it not being there tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next day. And give this market, this job market, this economy, what's happening with my student loans, like all this stuff, time to settle and figure out what that's going. I don't even know how much I'm gonna be paying monthly in student loans, to be quite honest. I don't know. Like, you can't get an answer from these people. I don't know, right? And so it's just so much uncertainty around, you know, everything. I'm very trepidatious about giving up my life, even if I did get a job in DC, even if I was offered one of the jobs that I applied for. I am still very leery about leaving a sure thing for something new in this economy. Like, I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. So I'm really close to deploying my parachute and saying, I may find me a 14-month lease and sign it, and then give it another year to see what happens with the job market, what happens with student loans, what happens with this recession that we're in, like what is going to happen. And then also, I just feel like God has been like speaking to me about this like leap that I have decided to take, in that he has been sending me messages and saying, you're taking the easy way out. Like you're taking the easier route. There's nothing wrong with the route. It's just the easier route. You want to be in New York. You've like, that's where your heart is. That's where you've always wanted to be. And yeah, you can, you know, get to New York by way of DC if you want to, or you can just go to New York, right? And that little thought was in the back of my mind, and I just kept saying, well, God, you know, I'm not really worried about that. I mean, I'm not really ready for that. You know, these student loans and this loan forgiveness, and what if I can't find a job? Like it'll be easier to find a nonprofit or a you know, job that meets the requirements for the loan forgiveness and all that type of stuff. And I could just hear God saying blah 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 blah, like you're making excuses. And so I've always said on here and across my platforms that I believe that God meets you where you are, right? And so I feel like that little blah 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 from God has been showing up in a lot of like messages across, you know, social media or like podcasts or whatever I'm listening to. And I was on one of Tanika B's lives. This was a while ago. This was probably the first download that I feel like I got from God about this situation. And she was just talking in general about, you know, her having moved to New York and wanting to live in New York, and she stayed in DC before she moved to New York or whatever. And somebody in the comments had asked her about, you know, about moving, and you know, I can't remember exactly what the question was, but it sticks in the back of my head, because you know Tanika is so funny, but it sticks in the back of my head, her very distinctly saying, if you want to move to New York, move to New York. Why would you move to DC, or why would you move to Chicago, or why would you move, you know, this place or that place if you want to be in New York? It is not that difficult, that much more difficult to live in New York. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, but people do it every day. If that is where you want to be, then that is what you should do. And I'm like, girl, who is you talking to? Who is you talking to? But also, I'm like, okay, God, I hear you, because, you know, we had like that. He had very specifically been in the back of my head like the night before I was on that live with Tanika. So I'm like, okay, guys, I see what you're doing. And for me, that was a download from God, right? He was meeting me where I was, and he was, you know, sending his message through a medium that I spend a lot of time with. And so I was like, okay, let me just open my job search up to New York and like, you know, see what happens. So I started applying to jobs out there as well. Haven't really heard anything from the jobs that I applied to. I think I applied to maybe one job, but it opened up my idea to like, let's just go to New York. You know, maybe we don't need a stop before we get to the place that we want to be, right? Ultimately. And so I just started opening myself up to the idea. And so over the last month or so, I've just been sort of still moving forward with, you know, applying for jobs and, you know, planning. I still have a trip to DC coming up at the end of this month. And so just sort of like moving forward with, you know, planning a move, whatever that may look like. Still doing research online about different areas that I could possibly want to live in DC, but also opening my mind up to the possibility of like going to New York and or staying in Chicago, right? For another year or so. And then last week I was listening to Off the Record, and from Any Given Sunday was the guest, and she was talking about how after she graduated grad school or law school, her and her boyfriend had broken up or whatever, and he was moving to DC, and she had like made this plan to like move to DC, like, you know, maybe if we're in the same place, you know, it'll work. So when she was applying for law firms, she was applying for like all of these law firms in DC, and she applied for one law firm in New York as like a just in case. And she ended up getting denied for all of the roles in DC, and she got the one role that she applied for in New York, and it happened to be like the best law firm out of all of the ones that she applied to or whatever. And she was just talking about how, you know, it was serendipitous and it was not where she was meant to be, and it was God sort of like, you know, redirected her back to what he had for her life, as opposed to her like, you know, trying to circumvent that and do what she wanted to do. And I just was like, oh man, like I'm like, I hear you, God. Like I hear you. And again, it was just one of those moments where I'm like, I hear you. I hear you. I feel like God is telling me, oh, you just want to take the shortcut out. Yes, you love DC. Yes, you would love to live there, but you would like to live in New York more. And so why don't you just set your sights on like going there? Then I went to get my hair done on Wednesday, and Blake was doing my hair, and he said, Angela, why DC? Why not just go to New York? And I said, huh? He was like, I just see, he was like, you just give much more I just see New York for you. I see much more for New York for you. I can't even get it out because I just was like, that's so crazy. Because earlier that day I had literally pretty much made up in my mind, and so I'm telling y'all that I am about 80% sure that I am going to re-sign a lease in Chicago in the fall, preferably something that's like 13 to 14 months. And then I'm not going to be moving to DC. I am going to just go to New York. Like whatever fear or concern or, you know, whatever that I had around going there first, or just in general, whatever fear that I had that I felt like I needed to do a stop in DC first. I love DC. I can always go to DC. I can always go visit. But whatever like inherent risk averseness that is living inside of me that said that I need to make a short-term stop here before I can go here, I'm ready to just like eliminate that thought process. Like just the idea of like the mental and literal gymnastics that you have to do to rent an apartment just gives me anxiety. So there's a lot of like trepidation and fear around it, but at the end of the day, like I know that's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. So anyway, I say all that to say life update. And I don't know, this isn't definitive. We're still 80-20. So there's still a 20% chance that I can wake up in the next couple months and be like, actually, I am moving. But I will say this, it won't be to DC, it will be to New York. So if I end up not re-signing another lease in Chicago, it's because I found an opportunity in New York. I probably will no longer be looking for opportunities in DC unless one of these last 2 jobs that I applied to reply back to me like, yeah, let's interview. Then, you know, I'll do that, and if an opportunity comes from there. But from here on out, I will only be seeking opportunities for New York, and I'll do that through, you know, regardless of what happens, I'm leaving this apartment because I just need more space. So I've also started looking at, I like was pricing apartments in my current building for something bigger. So that's a very big possibility. I might just be moving floors, girl. But I've also been looking at other apartments in other areas in Chicago that I would want to live in. So, yeah, either I'm staying in Chicago another 12 to 13 to 14 months, or I'm moving to New York. God is going to like open up an opportunity for me to be exactly where I want to be. No shade to DC, right? Because again, it really is a dream deferred. It really is somewhere that I, at 2 points in pivotal points in my life, I thought that's where I was going, right? I thought that was going to be where I spent a significant part of my life, and both of those times it didn't work out for the reasons that it didn't work out. And this is the 3rd time that the idea of DC doesn't work out, but this time it's on my own. It's me. It's not because something happened to me. It's because I get to make the decision that I don't want to do it. And so it feels different. It doesn't feel, I don't feel defeated by it this time in the way that I did the last couple times, or the last 2 times that it happened. I actually feel really like a sense of relief and like empowerment that I'm giving myself permission to, I mean, if you're gonna jump out the window, girl, just really jump. I mean, I still got a very big parachute attached to my back that I'm gonna pull the lever, cronk. But if you're gonna jump, girl, just jump. And so just wanted to share that with y'all, because the language around, you know, where I'm living, or you know what is happening in the next few months, is probably going to change as I get closer to like 100% making up my mind about what's going to happen. So yeah, so you know, to sum it all up, I probably definitely most likely won't be moving to DC, and there is highly likely a chance that I will spend another year or and some change in Chicago, while I prepare and save and give myself ample enough time to look and really plan for a move to New York. Or I just get an opportunity that I can't turn down and I'm in New York before October. And so I'm just going to let God move in my life in the way that, you know, he wants to move in my life. And I'm just going to continue to seek out opportunities that align with what it is that I want. So just wanted to give y'all that little update on my life. Thank y'all so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, for being supportive. And you know, we talk a lot about the ability to change your mind, and like, well, I talk a lot about, you know, giving yourself permission to change your mind, to have big ideas and then say, I don't want to do that, right? Or to achieve something big and say, okay, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I want to do something different. And then also, you know, pivoting, the power of the pivot. Like, you make this big plan, you have it all set up, and then, you know, something else happens, or you have a download from God, or whatever the case may be, and you may need to pivot for one reason or another, and being comfortable and allowing yourself to do that. And so you all are seeing me practice sort of what I preach in real time, and I'm really excited. I'm scared. I ain't gonna even lie, DC just it just felt so much more easy. You know, I'm giving myself ample time, or not. Like I said, if an opportunity that I just can't turn down happens before my lease ends here, then I'm going. But, you know, it's looking like I'll have another year or so, or a little more, to really plan it out. And so anyway, like I was saying, thank y'all so much for watching and supporting and liking and commenting and all the things that's contributing to me being able to make the move as well. If you have any questions or comments or concerns or feedback or any of the things, leave them in the comments. We'll have a conversation there, and I will talk to y'all in next week's video. Bye.